Everybody supersonic racing run. Oh, you're there. Hi, today we'll be visiting the Lost World. In Sonic Adventure, of course, not Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World. It comes fourth in the Knuckles story, even though Sonic visits it after Skydeck. Skydeck is actually the final stage in Knuckles' story. And before you enter the Lost World, you have to pick up 2 statues, the key to the past. And it's very annoying, especially when your AV splitter does not display to your TV because of the Mystic Ruins, or whatever this is called. I don't know why my TV has such a big problem with Mystic Ruins. It won't display sometimes, and I just have to pause to see the screen. Like, then the image shows up when I pause. Anyway, that's not related to the game at all. I do want to mention that now that we are seeing the last of the Knuckles stages, that the Knuckles story has kind of an interesting structure to it. So the first stage, Speed Highway, you can still make out Sonic's paths a whole lot, and you're still, kind of stuck to those paths, where you travel between the buildings and the alleyways, and you travel along the streets, and you take mostly the same paths that Sonic would. And the same's kind of true of the final stage, Skydeck. Skydeck is the final stage of the Knuckles story, where you still largely stick to Sonic's paths. You have the beginning and the ending are tied together, and then in the middle you've got those 2 lanes that open up because of that giant pipe thing in the middle. So the first and second stage, or the first and final stages, are very similar in that you really get an idea of Sonic's path through the level. Now the second stage is Casinopolis, and that's like a big box. You mostly stick to the perimeter. There's some stuff in the middle, but mostly you're climbing along the edges of the walls. And this stage, the 4th stage of the Knuckles campaign, the Lost World, is very similar, where you're put in a big box, and you do a lot of climbing around the perimeter, and there's some side paths that lead out of this big box room. But for the most part, you're just climbing around, and the middle is actually pretty empty. A lot more empty than Casinopolis, actually. So the second stage of Knuckles' story and the second to last stage of Knuckles' story are very similar. That's Casinopolis and Lost World. Now the middle stage, Red Mountain, combines those 2 things, where you'll remember as I went through Red Mountain, I showed off the Sonic path, and if you stick to the ground, it's very easy to make out Sonic's path through the level. But because of Knuckles' flying and climbing abilities, he can fly between any 2 pillars in that stage that he wants to. So it's also very open, like these box stages. So Red Mountain combines everything. And then, so Knuckles' story in a whole is a mirror image on one end, where the first stage is very, gives you a good sense of the Sonic path, and the final stage gives you a good sense of the Sonic path. The second stage is very open and climby. The 4th stage is very open and climby, and then the middle stage combines everything. And I think that's kind of a neat structure. Also, how do you get that item box? I have never figured that out. Anyway. Whew. There's no real big gimmick here. Sonic's gimmick is to run along the walls on those lighted panels, but of course Knuckles doesn't need that. He can just climb. So yeah, the main point I wanted to get across was just the interesting structure of the Knuckles story. How it sort of mirrors itself. In that sense, the climax is Red Mountain. That's sort of neat, I guess. Anyway, hope to see you back here for Sonic. Later.
Good enough.
Wait. This is the last time we'll get to see Knuckles, so I figured, may as well show off the boss that we're gonna have to cover with Sonic anyway. We'll be missing out on the E102 boss fight, but I don't think anyone will be too disappointed. With both Knuckles and Sonic, if you use the charge-up attack, he'll go down pretty much... I mean, you see that took out half his health. Knuckles, what's kind of interesting about Knuckles is that he gets a harder version where part of the floor is out, but it's still a very uninteresting boss fight. I could have used this time to talk about... Oh man, big mistake. I could have used this time to talk about the overall structure of the Knuckles campaign, but honestly, Lost World just did not have too much to talk about. In general, Sonic Adventure is a game that relies very much on its structures to be interesting and not its gimmicks. And with Knuckles, that kind of leaves you... You only have, like, 3 major types of structures with Knuckles stages. I mean, as I went over, there's the open stages, there's the pathy stages, and then Red Mountain combines the two. So that doesn't give you a whole lot to talk about with Knuckles, aside from... Oh, the walls don't factor in this mission, or... Oh, the gravity lever is kind of annoying, isn't it? Luckily, though, the stages do tend to pass fast. Anyway, I left this cutscene in its entirety because I kind of like it. When Knuckles gets back to Angel Island, that's probably among my favorite cutscenes in the game. I know it's a pretty stupid story, but I still get wrapped up in it. What's neat to note is that even though, like, there's a real sense of tranquility to what he says, and I don't know, it feels nice, but when you think about it, what he's saying is really kind of horrific. What he says is that, like, he's accepting that, he's just accepting what he's given, and that he's not going to question his, like, what he's doing, which is something pretty much everyone I know would think is a horrible thing to say. Just to not to question anything. And nice feet clipping through.
Perfect. All is well now. The Master Emerald and the island have been restored.
Also, this is off topic, but Knuckles is voiced by the same guy that does Lead Phoenix, or Reed Phoenix, in Burning Rangers. I don't know why his name is spelled L-E-A-D, but in the game they pronounce it with an R. I'll let you use your imagination as to why that could be. Also, this cutscene is pretty funny too, in that if you've beaten the game before, you know that Angel Island is just going to sink again in 2 seconds. Knuckles' story is also kind of sad in that the Master Emerald doesn't factor into the larger story at all. Like, at all. The whole thing about the Master Emerald being the server or whatever, or the controller of the chaos, like, it has no effect. And the same is true in Sonic Adventure 2. Like, Knuckles tries to control Biohazard, I think is his name, by using the Master Emerald, but that doesn't work at all. It's really inconsequential, and I don't know, it's just kind of sad how Knuckles' life in existence is just utterly pointless, except to keep this island in the sky for whatever reason. Anyway, so next time will be Sonic. I promise this is the end of the video, and you can probably tell that because it's ticking down to the end. As soon as I stop talking, this video will end.